It's like playing Need for Speed, but you're in the Need for Speed game. And the funny part is you're not in super high luxury cars. Everybody kind of just shows up with what they're pushing. Men have forgotten to be men, and women have forgotten how to be women across the world, but particularly in the Western culture.
So what happens in the future?
The thing I like about van life, for me, it is so much more interesting than having my cozy little apartment, my nice car, and my nice job. I've been feeling that I'm actually dying. I'm personally in a season of waiting right now. I have hopes and dreams just like everybody, but based on what's happening in the world, I've put them all on hold. And I'm watching and I'm paying attention. I focus right now more on health and wellness. And that's where I'll touch into minimalism.
Okay.
To conclude what I was saying there is that the relationship between people and genders, it is what it is, and I would imagine in the next 5 to 10 years can be a lot different than the conversation we're having today.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Just quickly before you move on, what do you see happening in the future?
Well, from what I'm seeing now, and that's how I'm going to base what I see is coming. And I would also, I don't remove myself from these categories because I'm young enough that I've fallen victim to it at times. Is men have forgotten to be men, and women have forgotten how to be women in across the world, but particularly in the Western culture.
So what happens in the future, do you think? How does it develop over time? Do we find our roles again, or are we completely scattered?
I do not think we'll find the roles again.
Do we not associate with each other?
Yeah, it would be more and more segregation, less associating with each other.
Which seems to be what's happening. You could argue that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
I think right now, current times is the most that people in history have said that they do not want to have kids, like families. And also people, the percentage of people who are single, I would say.
High.
Yeah. Single and lonely.
Yep, single and lonely.
So single and not wanting to be single, like looking for a family, looking for a community, but still single.
Yep.
And what's going on there, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to associate with each other.
Oh yeah, and it's socially unacceptable to be lonely or single. I always wanted kids. I always wanted a family of my own. I've chosen that is not the path for me anymore, despite social pressures, because I realized if I were to raise a kid, he's not going to be raised in the cookie cutter way that people raise kids these days. And he won't have enough friends to...
But wouldn't you argue that it's important to have that voice in the conversation in the future? Mm-hmm. Would that give you a reason, though, to have a kid? Well, let's say...
It'd have to be the right person.
Yeah, which is... It's funny, we have the most tools at our disposal ever to find the right person, but it seems increasingly difficult to do that.
Yeah, people had less information back in the day, but were more wise, smarter with doing stuff.
Anxious and depressed.
Yeah. So yeah, to before moving on to minimalism in the simple life, is that what I see going for the future is not people finding their roles again and not coming back together, but actually growing further apart.
I would say so too, in the short term at least, but maybe...
Yeah, not to be bleak, but...
Maybe in the long term it changes, though. Maybe.
Yep.
Perhaps.
There's nothing wrong with hope. But if this metaverse thing really takes off, people are going to be plugged in far more than they are now.
That's
the scary part.
That is a huge player in this conversation.
And how are we going to deal with that when everyone is plugged in 75% of the time? You go to work perhaps, or receiving an income from the government, so there is no need for work. Can you imagine? Okay, on to minimalism. simple life.
All right, so let me hit you with a question just to get
Sure,
it
sure,
started.
sure.
How have you lived recently in minimalist ways? How do you take action?
Minimalist ways. I've been gradually doing it over the years and years and years, enjoying every bit of it, enjoying how, sort of like living life out of duffel bags and a suitcase, and just, I lived my life due to circumstances being ready to pack my shit at any time because of different threats that may or may not have been present at the time. And making sure that putting my safety in a priority where like, hey, always make sure that, you got your stuff ready. Be prepared to leave stuff behind that you don't need. But the things you feel like you don't want to leave behind or do need, keep those things readily available so that you can just scoop them up, throw them in a car and take off. So I've lived a gypsy kind of vagabond lifestyle for...
Here in Kelowna?
No, not just here, long before I came here. Just my whole life.
Where else have you been?
Mostly just BC, Alberta, and down on the island. I've never been a huge into traveling, even though I'd like to. I like to make sure that I have lots of, like, I don't leave myself without options. I like to have options.
Me too. I understand.
So what holds me back a lot of going across the country, even though it was a dream of mine at one point, was because of I wanted to make sure I had a way back. I wanted to make sure that I'd have. But sometimes the adventure is not knowing what come next and taking that risk. So I've had nice cars, nice places, nice jobs, all that consistently for years. And a lot of the times with the materialistic stuff, I would get these things to make myself feel more accomplished and like I'm somehow worth more as a man. Jewelry, clothes.
Difficult trap.
Cars, yeah. Especially the higher end cars, because I felt that like, I was somehow more special because I had a nice car. That was a big one for a long time. And so even, it's very cliche now because even most people would say that even with the cars, the job, and the places that, you weren't that happy. It wasn't really doing it for you.
On to the next thing, right?
Yeah. So I gave up recently a nice apartment, nice job, and a nice car. I just gave it all up, and I don't miss any of it. I'm so much happier.
Which is right, or what's right for you right now.
Yeah. Minimalism, the way I treat my possessions is it has to serve a purpose. It's a tool,
Very much.
I ended up getting a couple vehicles that are not as aesthetically pleasing, but they serve purposes.
Well,
And I learned to love them.
the thing about material possessions too is, I heard someone else say this, is you have a nice car and you park it in the parking lot, you're worried about someone scratching it.
All the time. All the time. That was always like that.
Just don't. Try not to let them bite it. But yeah, you have a nice shirt, you spill something on it, it pisses you off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You said that cars used to be important to you. What would you say is more important to you now? What replaced that?
Priorities haven't changed that much. I'm pretty much the same guy, but with a little more direction.
Okay.
And
What direction would you say?
a life of purpose, of more meaning. I could do the 9 to 5 if it was a service position, something where I'd dealing with people. I've worked in isolation for years and
Brutal.
made good money doing it, but you're by yourself. Even though I have normal home I could go live in right now if I wanted to. I've got the keys and everything. It's there for me if I want it. Nonetheless, even with money in the bank, to get myself a new place, I'm willingly choosing to live the van life because I'm getting more excitement out of that than I do my normal routine. My normal routine with 9 to 5 is not much different than everyone else's, except what ends up happening is when I come home after work, I drink till bedtime, watch TV all the time. Often don't even make myself dinner, and I'll just watch TV and drink, and then dread going back to work, drinking at work. And I'm not ashamed to say it because I grew up at a young age dabbling with the alcohol. I've been drinking on the job my entire life, my whole life, or doing something else. That part of me never changed. So regardless of what it's done to the brain and the development and all that stuff, I need to be in a place where I don't feel the need to drink or get high at work. I've been doing it so long, and I just don't get caught.
Oh, I see.
I still bring in the money, I still hold the job, get good references, but I'm always taking something at work. And
I see.
You don't need to drink alcohol to be high at work. You can go down to your doctor and get a prescription that'll do just the same thing.
I know.
Except it's socially acceptable.
It's encouraged.
The thing I like about van life is my friend told me the best, it stimulates the brain. I've been feeling inside my head and my body that I'm actually dying because I'm not learning, and there's other stuff going on I won't share today that is actually kind of throwing my body into low gear. I'm not doing anything. Work, sleep. I'm not learning, and I'm not doing a very good job at my job. That's why I quit before anybody noticed, because I saw my work performance was going downhill. So I quit on good terms, kept the reference, and left my landlord's place with good reference at the time. So my friend said that you seem to be doing and feeling better with van life because it forces you to do stuff every day. Where am I going to park? I have to do this. I have to do that. Very simple tasks. It's not that difficult, but when you're suffering and you're not taking care of your health and body, even simple tasks can become difficult. You hear stories about people who are depressed, they can't get out of bed, they don't brush their teeth, they don't shower.
Simple tasks.
Simple things.
That would fix.
Yeah. And
that's how they fix it, actually. When you see a therapist, they try to get you to just, if you go to see a therapist and you don't, for instance, have like a community, you don't have a family or partner or a job, and your room is a mess, they get you to do all that, right? It's taking care of all the little things, right? Yep. And I know what you mean because,
my health has deteriorated to the point where even as a young guy, that I need to manage less stuff so that I can keep it managed or looked after, right? The less I have to look after, the more time I have to get in a better condition. What I love about van life is I'm outside every day and I get to see the sky. When I was living in my apartment, I didn't have many windows. So I kind of sat there miserable a lot of the time. The other thing it's got me doing is walking every day. Because of all these lockdowns and stuff, it has not so much programmed, but conditioned people to stay home more, to excuse it.
A lot more.
Yeah, a lot more, and it's justified. You're like, well, I can't do anything anyway, so I'm just going to stay home. Even though they may have spent a lifetime staying home anyway, now it's just like totally justified. Like, oh, it's okay to stay home because of these tough times. But me getting out I'm guilty of that too. I'll stay home when I know I should go out. It's cold, I don't want to go out. But now, living van life,
it's part of taking care of everything.
Yeah.
It's integrated into your chores and your responsibilities.
I'm walking every day.
Yeah.
And that's definitely way better. Drinking so much less. I pretty much gave up drinking altogether, and like I'm a pretty slim guy. I look like I'm in good shape, but I don't exercise much. Still don't. So
So yeah.
You can have a decent looking body and not exercise, but the exercise has health benefit. You know, the reason I stay in shape all the time is because I don't eat junk food and I fast a lot. And I watch what I eat, but I don't exercise enough. You know, and that exercise is important for mental health and all kinds of stuff. And I cheat the exercise constantly. So van life is the season I'm in right now by choice. I don't think I'd want to live it my whole life, but for now it's more fun for me right now. It's more interesting. I don't know how do I best describe it. I think I just did, but for me it is so much more interesting than having my cozy little apartment, my nice car, and my nice job. To even think of going back in time to relive it, the same life that I've been building the whole time, makes me want to vomit. It's boring. It's boring. Very boring. I had a nice place, 5-minute drive, so easy, right there, to my job, which paid me more than I was worth, more than the job was worth. It paid me well.
Yeah.
Tons of holidays. I got holidays the first 3 months of even starting work. I got a couple weeks off. All the ingredients for good things. 5 minutes from each other. And I still was sucking ass.
It's missing
something. Yeah. So I don't know. And being out more, I've had a chance to see the city both times a day. And it's actually the fact that I've been getting out more has opened up new opportunities to spending time with different people.
It's kind of like exploring, you know?
Oh yeah.
Exploring.
I managed to join like a card group, people that do like a meet, and we play games with cars. And race around and stuff in our cars. I never would have found that because I don't have social media.
Yeah.
So I have no way to find this.
How did you find it?
Just being in the right place at the right time. They were all meeting in the parking lot. I love cars, so I started talking about cars. Before you know it, we start racing around together, and we never had that growing up. For me, like I'm like, this is a real treat to experience this, because it's like playing Need for Speed, but you're in the Need for Speed game. And the funny part is you're not in super high luxury cars. Everybody kind of just shows up with what they're pushing.
Yeah, I've seen
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Because if you were from, let's say, Langley, BC, you'd notice a lot of people are putting their money into high-end BMWs, modding them up, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, it's very cool. But it's also really cool to see people in the junk. People that don't sink tons of money into cars and are just driving them for the fun of driving them. Yeah. And you see which piece of shit is gonna win.
So do they keep records? Do they like track times and say like, do they say like, is there matches or anything, or is it kind of
I think they do.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's why I got to keep playing. It's just too much fun. It was a ball. They didn't want to let me in at first, but eventually they did.
A little bit exclusive, you know.
Yeah.
Had to try you out a bit.
You know why? It's funny because what kind of a person approaches somebody in a parking lot these days to talk about their car? It's socially weird.
Yeah, it is.
So like, what's with this guy? Why would he do that?
The other day I called the place to volunteer, and they're like, "This is very odd," and I was like, "Yeah."
To call?
Yeah. I called the place and I was like, yes, I'm just looking to volunteer my time on these days. If you have any work that needs being done, I'll do chores, whatever, just to get experience, meet the crowd, you know. They're like, okay, and you can tell he just wants me off the phone right away. So it's like, dude, how did we get to this place? You know, it's odd.
Yeah.
Just like you said, approaching people in parking lots. It's like a red flag, you know. It's like the flags have changed. It's more acceptable to stare at your phone than it is to talk to people around you.
Yeah, and I totally wouldn't recommend approaching people in a parking lot without a purpose.
Yeah.
Like just, you know, but I had a purpose.
Oh,
I saw cars.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I like to communicate with people. I like to talk with people that are around me. And I find it challenging not to in sometimes, but whatever.
People ask me for sometimes odd stuff, and it was really funny. Some old lady came to me yesterday, or a week ago, sorry, in the parking lot, and asked me if I could have a mask because she forgot her mask. So she took my previously worn mask and went on her way. I mean, it was clean and basically brand new, but I kind of laughed. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, if it was as deadly as they say it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Well, I mean,
What would you like to talk about next time? I'd like to hear more about that car thing.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'll tell you all about
And
it.
van,
man.
and van life. That'd be nice to hear.
Yep.
I'm interested in that as well.
I'll tell you all about it.